Look, just a digression. I arrived here with my daughter, and my daughter has asked, "Dad, will I be able to understand anything of what you are going to say?" And I said, "Well, as a minimum, the pictures will be nice, will be cool, and now you're going to see some pics. Keep an eye on them." Yeah. Today, we're going to deliver another presentation explaining how we approached how we arrived at this approach, the methodology, StaaS as a service. We'll explain how it all started, where we are today, and where we're moving in this methodology to achieve a stand. And so let's see what happens. Julia, did you have the time to read it? No? Let me bring it back. Do you recognize the surname? Okay, let's move on. Let me introduce Iskander. Iskander Timoshin. He is a product manager of our PT AIM product. He's been working with server cloud infrastructure for 5 years. So thank you for joining us at this presentation. Dmitry is still with us, our development director, more than 20 years in IT, and one of our technical experts. But let's get close to the subject. So StaaS as a service, a start. We couldn't go past the pop singer, StaaS Mikhailov. I'll explain why. We came up with uncame-upable. Yes, that's the term. There's EAS, infrastructure as a code, and EFC, infrastructure front end as a code. I'll talk about that in more detail. Why StaaS? Stand as a service. From our experience, we're joining the product teams with our solution, saying that we want to deliver a ready-made stands to you. The colleagues were asking us, and you, as a product, who are you? Are you a cloud management platform? And we said, no, yes, no, but at the same time, no. And they asked us, are you orchestrators? Well, yes, both yes and no. And then they said, well, maybe then you are infrastructure as a service. We said, well, we do supply infrastructure, but not completely. So perhaps we are more like a separate direction. And this direction should be called Stand as a Service. Stand as a Service. It makes sense that describing what a stand is a service, it takes explaining what it means, and Dmitry is going to do exactly that. So what do we call a stand? A stand is a set of equipment, infrastructure, and information systems set up in a specialized way to solve specific problems, such as development, testing, demoing, training them to do some research, and so on and so forth. A stand can be deployed on bare hardware or in virtualization systems, in Kubernetes, for instance, in many places. So what is Stand as a service? It's an approach, a service method, where a pre-configured stand is given to a subscriber and keeps being fully serviced by the service provider. Depending on the task, the result of standing could be barebone infrastructure, an infrastructure with a distribution set uploaded, for instance, for its testing. It could be some isolated environment, it could be a clean installation, it could be an installation with data, it could be an installation with some build bolt-ons, and also for the quality assurance process, stands need to be supplied without a product so as to test its installation.
Хотя, может, и стандартный. Или, например, подразделениям обучения необходимо делать внешнюю обвязку для того, чтобы эти стенды отдавать наружу в интернет, проводить какие-то лабораторные работы и так далее. И, в принципе, как бы они еще используют стендирование через портал обучения. То есть это интерфейс API. Я к тому, что задачи самые разные, вот, и необходима кастомизация на каждом шаге. О шагах чуть попозже. Мы, год, наверное, назад общались, да, больше, наверное, 1,5, общались с командами и выявили вот эти проблемы, которые в прошлый раз на ПХД тоже озвучивали. Ручные процессы между получением ресурсов, накатыванием дистрибутивов, там, накатыванием продуктов и их тестированием, отсутствие стандартизации стендирования, да, ну, то есть, в принципе, развертывание нестандартное в компании. У кого-то Ansible, у кого-то Salt, у кого-то Bash, у кого-то комплекс из этих инструментов. И в таком режиме, в такой ситуации очень сложно универсальное решение какое-то придумать.
So in this situation, it would be difficult to come up with a universal solution, depending on the provider. If you add a provider, we would have to build a new stand solution. The same thing would happen when you add a new product, a new task, maybe new division, and so it's a hard scalability, and also unpredictability. You know, when one bunch of people is making network, the setup is done by different people, so this is also not great. And the products, you know, the third team is building products, provisioning by the fourth, and the setup by the fifth, people. And those fifth team has no idea what the first team or previous team were doing, and it's hard to understand who will give us this learning stand. So we had built a certain division in charge of that. Now let me tell you how it all started. The initial idea was to get some kind of universal tool which would do the functions of the automatic standing, like a test bench for different solutions, and like a demo, development, training, irrespective of a provider of where the resource will be placed. And the question is, what had to be done? We had to create a methodology of how to build this training stand, and also how to automate some manual projects, like between this stand and this stand, and then building distributives, and then filling up with data, and also wanted to increase observability, because each team were developing their own, deploying their own stands. Not all of them, not everybody in each team were thinking about monitoring and logging and traceability. So this had also to be some kind of centralized mechanism. We wanted to build some interface and also isolate layers from the infrastructure layer, so that we would be able to build a certain level of abstraction, allowing us to work with different providers for the placement. So we had to build a certain number of configurations, maybe some manifests and examples, so that we could be able to reuse them, repurpose them for different teams. And many teams expressed their desire to work in autonomous mode, like to be like a multi sort of task, and for this stand to be given to independent teams, or the teams independent from each other. Next,
говорили год назад.
Next, what were we saying a couple of years ago at the Positive Hack Days? I even got some, socks for that. We've written methodology, we've built some requirements and built a solution, enabling us to be like unified sort of point of receiving a stand, depending on the placement provider for different goals. So this is what the sequence of our work looked like, and this was actually a screenshot of my presentation. And I believe, like, look at this guy, look at this spaceman. And this was me. This was me. Now I am 1 year older.
Что вошло в методологию в итоге?
Also, what was the part of our methodology? A unified format of describing manifests, then the product specifications, next contracts for applications for stands, some example of templates of those manifests, and also as a part of this methodology we've got a status model for the stand, and also description of working with stand at each of the step of creating this. And next, you are going to see some diagrams. It's going to be more visual. And this is what a context module of our solution looks like, PTAIM, which was located in the infrastructure platform of Git Positive Technologies. And this diagram, you can see how internal and external users have been communicating with it. You can see that there are many communication interfaces and pipeline, user interface in other products which would communicate through the API with them. And also, there is a communication with the BI system to be able to send reports, and also those placement providers. And this infrastructure, as we thought back then, or like a model infrastructure, this is the way it should be. But actually, many things have changed. And as we see now what the infrastructure looks like, Iskander is going to give you an update. Exactly. The infrastructure in Russia and in the world has its own, should I say, vibe, or it's very different because all the teams and major companies, they would like to do their own unique solution. Nobody wants to make like a cookie cutter solution which would be identical to their colleagues and their competition. And if market has this expectation, then market of ready products and infrastructure products is always responding that yes, we provide this kind of solution to our consumers. So you can see these periodic tables of all infrastructure products available in the world. I would say this matrix covers like a 90%, and we're also using this here in Russia. This is the table by the XC Biolabs. They are built in this table every year by polling about 18,000 of infrastructure and DevOps professionals. Now, looking at this table, I want to say that, as you can see, there are so many products, and each of the products requires some deep dive and understanding of what are the main benefits of the products and what challenges this product is good for. And interestingly enough, that when Mikhail and I, we've shown this table to the moderator, he looked at it and said, yeah, it looks very much like the original periodic tables of the famous scientist Mendeleev. And if you want to have a better understanding, we have some context, so you and I can take a look at this table and give you like onboarding. As I've mentioned already, everybody wants to be different, unique. People want to stand out. They want to have unique products. Some teams have absolutely different, different structure. We as positive technologies are not much different. And speaking about our infrastructure, then we have some standard tools we have been using. How do we know that? Because we're also introducing the Directorate of Information Technologies to make sure that these tools would be up and running. This is what we are responsible for. But again, we give choice to our teams. Speaking about infrastructure on the level of teams, each of the teams, depending on what purpose their product serves and what kind of technological strategy they've chosen, they may select a build from or a setup from different products and services which they may be using in their infrastructure. And this is what I mean. Let's say one team may have this kind of mix of services. The other team may have their own mix. And this mix could be totally unique. Again, the fourth team may have their own kind of setup or mix of services. We, as products and service, we have to work with each of the teams, and with each of the teams, we have to stay in touch and give them the best stand which should be relevant for them. So it's about a deep dive into these stands. It's only one of our core goals. What else? A couple of words about configuration. These stands could be different. At least three separations. It's separations on the level of business. Should I say that there are stands like all-in-one when you are building your VM virtual machine with one product, for example, CM installed in it, and this could also be used on the Kubernetes clusters, or NG or new generation firewall product. NGFW. Does your daughter know what it means? Of course she does. And this also could be installed again on another virtual machine. There are also mid-level of business or mid-load stand where we have a bunch of ours and maybe not ours products, and they're interconnected. And of course, this third type would be high-load stands, where we have some very high hierarchy and connection between different products, some VMs and also virtual machines which are lower in terms of the level and submitted, and we also have some very heavy, high-intensity logics and communication between those virtual machines. Now, going back to the question of services on what teams may be using, we usually would come to the teams and say, hey, we would like to supply you with this stance, and dear colleagues, what are you using the most? And this is the short list. What our teams have been using, what they would like to be continued to use, and also at the same time they want to make sure that this will be convenient for them, and we want to be the part of our service mix. Now, IAC, infrastructure as code. It is basically when you use stands or virtual machine and you deploy your infrastructure as a code, and you do not do it in interface by clicking like a million times for many different virtual machines. Our colleagues from the teams initially, they did not, speak about this approach, but I probably have to step back and to give you a heads up and to give you a background of how these products have been developed and what the strategy was like. We thought that our clients would be housewives, the type of typical housewives or men who between cooking the dinner and doing dishes would like to deploy a couple of stands with the NGFW, and they would like to do it with a couple of pushing a couple of buttons. We have found this type of proverbial housewives, and we said that we're going to do this kind of stance with a 2-button push, and the housewife said, yeah, that's great. We're not going to do this because we have DevOps professionals and infrastructure professionals. Go to them and speak to them. we came to our colleagues. We've spoken with them and they said, yeah, it's a great idea, pushing two buttons sounds great, but before we will push these two buttons, we want to do individual setup, customized setup, because you do not know what we need. Okay, we get it. Thank you very much for giving us this feedback. So we rolled up our sleeves and we've done it the way our internal clients requested. We did the Ansible and Terraform, the two basic IAC tools, which enable you to set up your infrastructure even before you press these couple of buttons. And also, right here, I should have mentioned about the relaunching of our products, which we began doing, but now we can deploy the stand not only via the program interface, but also we can do it through the manifests. This will be the final composure of this infrastructure which you hand over to Terraform, and it takes your resources and deploys your infrastructure. You're saying, hey, I need a couple of virtual machines with a certain memory capacity and processes, and then it goes to a resource part, it brings up this whole thing, brings up this stand for you. It is available, became available also in our software. Next, we did a relaunch. From the older interface, we've migrated into the newer version, where now you can trace our own stance, we can see what is happening with the stance, and also it is possible to do a deep dive into each stand. We have a role model with a multi-tenancy that Dmitry has mentioned about. There is also a possibility to follow up and trace the history, and also you can conveniently manage all the stands that have been developed by yourself and by your team, depending on what role model you've chosen for yourself. Now, we've realized that stand as a service, or StaaS, would be our main approach, and we provide the product as a stand. And this is what makes us unique and different. At the same time, this is what this would be our main differentiator, set us apart from the crowd management or orchestrators. And for each client, like in one zone, oceans and seas, like you can get whatever you want, like the proverbial song goes. Dmitry, how does it work right now from the technical standpoint? Yes, I'm hoping, StaaS, that we will not be litigated after we do all of that. Yes. Now, so the current architecture. Right now, the system is more focused on the manifest orchestration, which have been created, and the teams had saved them in a repository. Looking at this diagram, left to right, you can see that a client is submitting some kind of request to build a stand, and the system, looking at this inquiry, sees what kind of manifests have to be used, and step by step is making the deployment. Number one is building infrastructure. We do this in both ways, by the Terraform and also API provider. Next, we do provisioning. Next, we launch deploy. This would be Ansible or different scripts. And right after getting a stand, we do the double check, the checking it for consistency and checking whether it performs right. Right after that, a client who initially requested the stand get access to this stand, and at each stand that I've described, they get a certain status. That's why it's a status model, because this process is quite lengthy, it's quite time-consuming. And also, I would say, very high-tech. At the same time, we've added to this diagram working with stands after they will have been created. So this is all related to working with images and copying images, which is, by the way, a very cool feature in between the clouds. And also launching virtual machines and getting statistics and you name it.
Вот, давайте посмотрим на
Now let's take a peek at the components and system architecture. It's a microservice-based architecture with inter-service communication through the bus of commands. So you have the manifest, and depending on the route, the system passes on this manifest to different controllers. Each platform has its own unique controllers, and it executes only its piece of controls, depending on the attributes of the API version. It's a Kuber-like format of the manifest, nothing radically new here. This format of manifest is quite standardized. And also there is a service which is getting analytics and forwards the dashboard to the BI. Yes, Iskander, can you please highlight what kind of value this service brought to the teams? I will definitely do, and I'm done with my part. Now, metrics which will be over and covered. First, when we launched as a product, the most logical metric would be for us a number of teams which have been using us as the kind of ready-made solutions for building StaaS. But then we got some not so obvious metrics when we spoke with our colleagues. We've learned that basically one engineer is preparing 10 StaaS a week, can save up to 20% of time. And this is about 20 hours of savings per week, because they would be using us and not some other solutions. And based on these methodologies, it would be quite logical to say what would be the avenue for development. The next logical step would be opening up cloud providers so that our colleagues would be able to evolve and to build StaaS and virtual machines with different providers, and also all kinds of virtualization. But again, it is about working with external market. If any of our clients need some non-conventional stand solutions, for example, for the domestic virtualizations, and it's also about integration with other services such as task tracker, such as messengers, because this scenario when you get a message that, hey, something happened with your stand, it is down, or somebody modified it, it's quite convenient, and I think our internal clients will be super happy if we will have this kind of a service. Speaking about the global goals, large goals, you may have seen this magic numbers EFC, infrastructure from code. It's basically rethinking of the standard approach which has been used by the market, like infrastructure as code. When now the infrastructure is written within the code by a developer on the level of backend, and the community and our fellows from other countries are developing this new trend on their JavaScript and Python languages. So far in Russia, I haven't seen anybody who would have expertise in these developments. So sometimes you need to collect all the information by pieces and on international resources. And probably we may become the first ever product which will be pioneering the path and new approaches that I've just mentioned. What else? Of course, in the year 2025, if you do not have machine learning and artificial intelligence in your products, probably something is wrong with you. That's why we, as living and breathing beings, we benefit from the AI. You can do this kind of request, create to me so many virtual machines. You can even make a mistake. I mean about the favorite name. There is a wrong English phrase or word. So you can push enter, and artificial intelligence will give you a ready manifest. You basically insert either to Terraform or to Ansible, or you may be using this inside of the VM itself. And the stance is being created by just pressing two buttons. But this is not it. our team who is preparing the different solutions, we are staying in very close contact with them, and probably we'll be able to implement more complex and more interesting functionality. So far, we've decided to use this one. Haters gonna hate, and then we say, hey, this is like too simple. But our clients are saying that this is basically like works like magic. Thank you so much. And so we love our clients more than we love our haters, obviously. Targeted operational scheme, I guess. I mean, what it's going to look like, Dmitry is going to take over. I definitely will. This system is going to be more focused on manifest generation, and it will not force users to do the manual input based on the product specifications. And this was done by design to use these product specification descriptions in different variations and components and what other systems they may be connected to. So we will be using them to build architectural landscape, as I've mentioned in my previous presentation. And also on top of that, basically we are open for all the internal teams and not only for expanding amount of controllers, but also for writing more specific flows of getting these stands. Summing up what we said before, some conclusions over to you, Iskander. No, these conclusions or resume is very, very simple. Old is our world, so to speak. Product-wise, long-term planning versus a market situation or market requests. By thinking some new ideas, we also have to look around. Maybe the market already has this idea. We simply have to grab it and you have to make it a reality, because the market basically, you simply need to do your best to take these clues from the market and make lives of their users more confident. You don't have to look like too far into the future. Just listen to what you have in your immediate environment. At the same time, there's also like a flip coin. It's a mixed blessing, so to speak. When you're doing cost devs, I mean, you do interviews with your clients. Many of them may consider that, this chance of when some kind of narrow case could be resolved with your products, and they'll say, hey, that's a bad solution for the market. Of course, so do not lose your focus, because sometimes some of your co-workers, some of your competitors as well, may use you trying to solve their own problems, but at the same time, this is not the problem that will be solved for the market. Like one product fits all. This will be the perfect idea for any product owner or product manager when your product is used by internal and external clients as well. But in reality, I think it's going to be just a mess, and nobody will enjoy it. It will not address anybody's problems. It looks like a problem, just put it on a shelf, but nobody takes it. Nobody cares about that. So these are the conclusions, and thanks a lot. It looks like our presentation is over. These are our contacts. Should you have any questions and you want to talk, you want to chat, you want to pilot our project, we would be very happy to see you in your DM us. And please, let's give a round of applause to Dmitry, because 2 presentations in the row. I mean, that's amazing. Good job. First of all, folks, let's keep them on stage. Let's evaluate the presentation, and also it's a chance to ask any questions. Yeah, it looks like we have at least 3 questions. Let's go ahead, please. Hello again. No, you're 2, because that's why I have 2 questions, 1 for each. Why do you need another book? You've already gotten 1 book, It's not about the book. It's not about the book. Anyway, my first question is to you, Dmitry, and it's about your technical solution. You said that you're using 2 approaches, and my question is, why are you using a couple of approaches? I mean, the Terraform and the second one. Well, I think it's It's quite obvious because, again, for those who are non-housewives, so to speak, they have a lot of their own developments and ideas. And to avoid changing them, reshaping them, to decrease this kind of lower entry thresholds, we are using quite common tools which are usually used to raise up the infrastructure. Basically, these are Terraform modules. And we are using these specially kind of prepared Terraform modules with like a predetermined contracts, output contracts, but also we're using different ones, not only those with limited functionality. Thank you. And my second question is for you, Iskandar. You've mentioned about EFC, and it's like a new sort of development, a new level. Is there any community which will be developing this new thing? Like, are there in people? Can you please give us a little bit more details about EFC? Well, speaking of the international level, yes, there are maintainers, and mostly there are like server as a cloud companies. And this would be a community or bunch of people who have been using CDK or Cloud Development Kit tools, and also AWS, Amazon Web Services tools like Amplify, because those are quite similar, I would say, and in nature, and they have their own, combined community of those who love these products, and now they try to come up with something new. Thank you. Thank you for your presentation.
We have some more questions there. Firstly, thank you for your presentation. It's all been quite informative, exciting, and easy to understand. I have a couple of questions. How do you control the size of the resources for each stand? So, do you have any quota system? How do you offer resources for this, for a specific stand? And if you need to extend the resources, how does it happen? Well, we do have quoting, sizing, but it all depends on the placing platform. There are controlled placing platforms and internal ones where quotas can be extended at any moment in time. But for external clouds, of course, funding is needed, and you need to have budgets approved, and of course, quoting is important. We have it automated for such systems, and we're working on somehow automating the process of internal quotation. So far, we don't have it. Have I understood it correctly that you have implemented the quotation mechanism, quota mechanism for external clouds and not for internal ones? Not yet. There's this transition period, so far we don't have a process for that. And there was another question. Yes, another question, more to Iskander, I guess. When do you plan to monetize this wonder of the world in the external market? Well, we're now piloting it with internal teams in Positive Technologies. That coincided with the migration to our internal cloud. The teams are piloting and using the OpenStack together with us. As soon as we finish this process, it'll be a sign for us to start working with external customers. So we plan to productize this whole thing. You can put it this way, but to start with, we would just like to kind of touch the market, to feel the market. Thank you very much for your presentation. I like the idea very much that you have a personalized approach to each team depending on the services they're using. From which I get the following question. At the current stage of development, will all product teams be able to use the platform? If yes, then it's cool, and if not, then maybe you can explain some subtleties. Okay, let me take this question. Look, everybody can use it, but it all depends on the specific task. Because if your stands are the same from day to day and it's a repetitive experience, for instance, you're running tests, you raise a test and then you drop it, or you run a training, you raise 150 stands and then drop it. But if I have an infrastructure and I have to think about its design, of course we can bring it up, but the question is why. It's a question of the effort. So basically, if you have some automation, we can reuse it. For instance, Terraform, and we can launch it via the system. But normally, there's no requirement for that. So to start with, we just wanted to provide those teams with automation who bring up stands every day. So basically, it's about repeatable stands with a determined life cycle. Well, the life cycle can be regulated. You can automate that. There's a parameter setting for its lifespan, but we also have long-living stands, so it's not a criterion. The criterion is repeatability. Thank you. There was a question at the back. Yes, thank you for your presentation. My question is about who is going to have the responsibility for completing these manifests. Will the work be passed on to customers, or will you, as part of support, be creating their own manifests for them? Or maybe you'll create some database with public access on the open source principles that will also be supported by the community. Let me know. First, great idea. Thank you very much. Regarding who will draft the manifests, as I said, housewives have their own specialists who usually do that. And if the housewives don't have these specialists, then our team will help them not only with AI, but with the natural interface as well. Yes. Natural, very natural. And correspondingly, we will work hand in hand with every internal user all the way to them having their stand deployed and until things happen with the stands that they had expected to happen. So in answering your question, we help them in this aspect if there's nobody else who can do it for the customer. Okay, there's another question. Let me also add that we have this end-to-end support organized because the number of steps to get this stand is quite high, and anything can happen at each of these stands. There's a process of support covering the entire process. And it's not our team, only our team is that's responsible. Oleg, Gas Informed Service. Well, you're our partners, and the topic is quite exciting. Thank you for your presentation, not because I'd like to claim the book, but it's just the topic is very relevant. Everybody, including integrators in the first place, are thinking about that. But my question is more to Iskander. It's more about operations and the further positioning of this future product in the market. If my understanding is correct, unfortunately, we were late for the beginning, Iskander, and you are heading the structure within the positive. Not yet, not yet. You are within the IT department, right? Dmitry is one of the heads of DIT in positive technologies, and Iskander is one of his subordinates. So it appears that you're the guys who are providing IT services to the company, and you took this burden of developing a product. Nobody actually imposed this responsibility on you, so it was your initiative. And now this product may also become a commercial product. That's right, that's very right. DIT has no obligation to anyone. Okay. I just wanted to note that DIT has taken up the responsibility.
Вообще это выглядит логично.
Well, it does make sense, doesn't it? Well, if you allow me, as an employee of Positive, I'll reformat it. It was a big request from other departments, including development. It was a request from other departments to DIT. It's just commendable that you have responded, considering all the many problems that DIT has to solve. That's a great job. Thank you. And the other question is technical, but quite easy. As far as I understood, you are only deploying stands, or do you do something for applications? So, like, for instance, you deploy stand, load CM, for instance, to check. Well, this is one of the scenarios. So it's not just the operating system. There are no technical limitations here. And the very last question, it's still about development. I, for one, see that this topic, bringing up several stands a day, it's not really for a usual customer, but for someone like a systems integrator. Have you assessed the market size, or maybe that's a commercial secret? I think I can give you an answer without any numbers. Firstly, the market is just taking shape, so it doesn't have clear-cut boundaries. I started with it. This kind of software products, utilities, platforms position themselves differently. Sometimes some people call themselves a cloud management platform, some as an additional utility to IaaS. Some other people call themselves orchestrators. But if you bring all these products together, even within Russia, then the market is quite easy to understand, and the number can also be figured out. I'm just not going to name it. Regarding the international market, it's also quite clear. There are major vendors, Amazon, Google, and next to them, there are products that do about the same. It's just that the level of automation that runs together with the infrastructure is arriving at a station that the market for such products is only starting to take shape. And we're at the very start of this process. And I see that in the next 5 years, I will see a multifold growth of this kind of products. And we're among the ones who are starting doing that. Colleagues, by the way, I have a question. If there are no more questions in the room, Iskander, is my understanding correct? And there was an answer to this question from a colleague there, that one can suppose that you, think about a publication of this product and its community development. Well, open source is a separate area, a separate philosophy when it comes to making sure that your products gets developed. We're going to think about that. I, myself, as a product manager, have an opinion that open source is about community. And so if you're putting something into open source, you're taking a huge responsibility for offering your product to the market. And at the same time, it's a huge responsibility that you have to package the idea that you've implemented in your product into the shape that would be as usable by people who's going to use it. Well, it can be done, but it's going to take effort. I would also like to add that we've tried this approach within PT, and we were developing the controllers that are shown quite openly. And we like the approach because the teams really showed interest. They were keen to keep developing not only our systems as a product, but also the whole methodology. So many thanks to the DevOps department for helping us develop the concept. The Competence Center was helping us, the training division. So, and product teams, so we see that internally, and of course we'll think about that. But more likely than not, it's going to be the next generation. It's going to be the generation that will help us hit the market. And of course, that will require a lot of resources. Yes, exactly. That's the reason why I'm asking. The colleague from Inform Service asked a question about that. Colleagues from our partners, other partners of ours also mentioned this. So, as part of the as applied to infrastructure as a code. So I think this is something that a lot of people are interested in that. So any more questions to Dmitry and Iskander? So then let's give them a round of applause. Iskander, don't forget to award the book for the best question. I almost took it away. No, don't do that. It's a good book. You need to give it out. All right, let's offer it to the colleague from Gas Inform Service. Okay, that's up to you.